You know what? We have had the privilege of having Vitality Society for since the start of the pandemic, and it's been a very successful, have taken advantage of it. So thank you, Meredith, for coming and talking to our group again, and I'll let you take it from here.
Fantastic. So Travis, if you would be so kind to make me co-host, and that way I'll be able to share my screen. Okay, or Barbara, if you can.
Should be good to go.
All right. Yep, I'm good to go. Perfect. So I'm just going to introduce myself as I'm presenting, but it's such an honor and privilege to be here. We are a fan of the Villages organization, and it's been the opportunity to serve the members of the Villages. Okay, so Travis, I'm going to let you mute people as they come on so everybody can hear well. Please, by all means, if you can be easier for the flow, and we'll have adequate time at the end. Okay, so we'll start at the top, and then of course I'll give you a little bit more information about who I am in the process. So my feeling is, and what inspired me, the idea that this is your time. How do you feel your best to enjoy it the most? And I really feel very passionate about this mission to really create and bring vitality to fruition. Okay. Oops. Okay, so first, my inspiration. My mom is on the left and my father is on the right. First, my dad. So my dad and I are actually very similar in many ways, but in one distinct way, we're very different. My dad has had a number of health concerns and challenges as of late because he really hasn't prioritized his health and well-being as much as he can. And that's something that is very important to me. That is part of my daily routine and my daily life, but not so much for my father. Blood diseases, blood cancers, and I had to figure out how I was going to fight like hell to save his life. And fortunately, I was able to do so, and my father has now gone into remission from his diseases and is thoroughly, knock on wood, enjoying his life. He's out in Colorado right now with my mom, visiting my brother and his family. And what I learned about my dad was, I said, Dad, now you have a new lease on life. Tabula rasa, how are you going to start? So we were at my brother's home where you see these large steps, and my mom flew up the steps. In the last 18 months before she had visited this house, she had 2 hips replaced. But she shows up on Vitality Society because I built it for her. She comes to the classes and prioritizes her well-being, and she's doing great. She flew up those steps because she didn't want to miss a minute with her kids or her grandkids. She wanted to be part of everybody's life and enjoy her life as much as possible. So I look at my dad at the bottom of the steps after my mom sprinted up, and I said, what are we going to do with you? What would motivate you? Because until I understand you, I can't do this, what I do well. Because there's a lot of people like my dad out there, and I want to be able to help him as well. And he said to me, Meredith, you know, if the insurance company allowed me to pay less money and less of a premium, I would show up like driver's ed. If I show up, I don't have to pay as much on my car insurance. And I said to myself, God, is it really about the dollars and cents for my dad? But it's less about what's important to him as much as knowing what's important to you. We want to understand what motivates you. Are you going to be like my mom and despite setbacks, not miss a beat and do her best to engage fully in life and do the work so she can do that? Or more like my dad, you know, looking at this very differently and needing a little bit more motivation and inspiration. So I think a lot about it. And I think to myself with my father, well, wouldn't he save so much time and money not having to go to doctors, not having to pick up prescription medications that he's on? To me, that would be a tremendous cost savings and a huge opportunity for him to reclaim his time and a lot of dollars. So by way of background, just quickly, this is my 30th year working with older people. I had started when I was in high school. I wanted my grandparents to live forever. They were a very significant part of my childhood, and I loved having them in my life, and I wanted it to stay that way as long as possible. So I was cooking for them and they felt better. And then I started cooking around the state of New Jersey for older people, helping them live longer, healthier lives. And as a result, I won a congressional award. And during this time, I also had worked for 20 years in the senior housing industry and sat on Mayor Bloomberg's Age-Friendly Commission in the New York City Department for Aging. And prior to business school, going to Harvard, I launched online communities. So I'm feeling very optimistic that I have the passion and dedication to do this work, or I do it well. All right, so we're going to start with this concept of a vitality score. So if everybody could just take out a piece of paper, doesn't have to be anything more than just a quick piece of paper, any type, and a pen. And what we're going to start with is let's understand the baseline and opportunity where everybody is today. So I'm going to ask a question, and all you need to do is write down one number. And the value for each is 0 to 2. So the first question and the vital score, the letters VITAL, is your values, beliefs, and words aligned with your vitality goals, whatever they are. And whether it be wanting to travel every year or get to a milestone birthday or see a milestone celebration for your family. So are your actions, beliefs, and words aligned with your vitality goals? If they are not at all, give yourself a 0, but if they are very much so, give yourself a 2. So write that number down. The next one is investments. Have you already made investments in your overall vitality that will continue to pay off? The way in which you invested your money, the way in which you've thought about housing, the way in which you've done maybe home repairs, setting up yourself for success socially, with engagements with church groups or other organizations. Like, have you already made investments in your overall vitality that will continue over time to be beneficial and pay off? So that's 0 to 2. If you haven't done this at all, something you've invested in quite a bit and given a lot of thought, give yourself a 2. All right, talents. What are you inherently good at? And are you employing these skills in new and interesting ways? So again, what are you inherently good at? And are you employing these skills in new and interesting ways? So if you are not doing this at all, again, that would be a 0. And this is something you're doing quite well, give yourself a 2. Of course, a 1 is in between if that is most appropriate. The next one's attitude. Does your state of mind propel you being your best? If you're definitely have the right positive attitude, give yourself a 2, or any other score that best assesses where you are. And the last one for L is lifestyle. Are you living in a way to maximize your vitality that is optimal and sustainable? So if you're doing this well and you feel really good about it, give yourself a 2, and then a lesser score if this is something that hasn't been in, and something you're investing in could be better. Okay, so now it's simple math. Just sum up those 5 scores, and I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go to the chat. And I'm just going to ask you to put down in the chat, what is that score? We're not taking any shown up. You just put your name and your number. Your name will pop up. So as an example, I'll put mine in, like I'm an 8.5, and I just put that there. Okay, so if you were comfortable, share. It's just an understanding as a baseline where we are. Okay, so we've got some 8s, we've got some 5s, we've got some people said 5 today, but before the pandemic, who else wants to share another 8? Okay, 6s, 9s. Good. So when I do these talks, I always find it interesting. Those who opt in to come, like more or less, right? So 7 to 10s. And I think that's interesting, right? Because these are people who already are feeling quite vital and vibrant, but on the other hand, want to be even more so and are motivated. And so you're a 10 and want to sustain it, or a 6 or a 7 and want to explore how to improve your score. This program is something we're going to go through. So that's very interesting. And I really appreciate everybody sharing. And let's go back to the presentation. Okay. So these slides will be available. I think someone just asked me if they'll be available. So the answer to that is yes. So when you think about longevity, it is a function of your lifespan and your health span. And what Dr. Attia is saying here is that squaring off the curve, the idea of living long but not well is not that interesting and exciting to anybody. So it's about living a very long and living a very complete and happy and healthy life. That's most important. So I think about Queen Elizabeth's story unfolds and the ceremony happened. It's absolutely phenomenal, the celebration of her life. And when you think about her lifespan, last article I read, I think it was 2 days earlier, she was still having meetings as the icon of monarchy, and representing the morale of the country and a figurehead for the nation. And it's just remarkable to think that she had this very long life and she lived a very good life. And that's really what we're talking about here. It's to add years to your life, but also life to your years. So that's everything we're going to talk about, that it hinges on that. So when I did my research to prepare to launch Vitality Society in the living rooms of friends and family who invited us and their neighbors in, to distill these ideas down to 8 guiding principles. And we'll go through them today. Each one is 2-letter word. They're very simple. If you have a piece of paper, jot down some notes. I like to make it interactive. So if I call on you and you're not comfortable, just say pass and we'll move along. But Ellie, one of the members of Vitality Society, said it best. She's 84 years her age because she had a birthday and everybody was celebrating. What do you think? And she said, I don't even think about my age, which I just love, right? She's just living life and enjoying life. So the first principle that we're going to talk about is the idea of be. Become the best version of our cover story of the Harvard Business Review. You want to lead your life like you led your business during the best years at work, whether your work was at home, being a caregiver to your family, whether your work was in an peak at home or at work. What business and were you in, and how did you plan and prioritize and find purpose during that time? That's the idea here. So you want to have a plan, have a clear purpose, because the idea is when you were your happiest, we want to replicate and duplicate that again. And we want to understand, how do you plan and prioritize and find that purpose later in life? So be where this begins. Everybody should have a plan. So here's part of the interactive piece that I love. So I'm gonna ask 2 volunteers to do this, but one truth, one your best. Again, everybody has passing options. So if I call on you and you're not comfortable, please simply say pass. So I'm going to ask Jean Anderson to come off mute if you would. And I'm going to ask Judy, if you would, name one truth, one lie, what you're doing to remain at your best. Now, Jean is going to answer. Jean, do you know Judy?
No, but I do now.
Okay, perfect. We're going to get there. Judy, when you think about your repertoire of what you do day in and day out, and the routine of what you sustain in your life, what's one area that is the truth of what you do, and one that's a lie? But don't tell us, because Jean's gonna guess.
Okay. I go for a walk every morning. And hang out with friends at a neighborhood bar every evening.
Ooh, they both sound good to me. Okay, Jean, which one's the truth? The walk or the bar?
I would say the first one is the truth and the second one is a lie.
And I have trouble thinking of a good lie.
No, but that's a good one. That's a good one. So this idea of walking, like having routine, something that gets you moving, something that gets you those exercise and stuff is so valuable. And by a show of hands, are there a lot of people that have a routine that they do day in and day out to get some consistent exercise? Yep. That's obviously very important to having a plan, right? Every day to have a routine. All right, we'll do one more so you get the gist. Will, because I like your rainbow. Will, you're no pressure, come up with one truth and one lie, how you remain at your best. Now, Annie Smith, if you can come off of mute, and you're going to listen to Will, and we're going to figure out which one is the truth, how he stays well. Go ahead. Will, how do you stay
Okay.
well? What do you do? One truth, one lie.
Okay, well, I stay well by lifting weights regularly, so I build up strength. And I stay involved in activities like social issues, like the rainbow signifies a view of racial issues, for example.
I love that. I love that. I hope both are true. Annie, which one is true?
I think the lifting weights is true.
The lifting weights. Is that the true one, Bill?
Well, no, it's not actually. We
Okay.
exercise by walking. It's staying
Oh,
involved
okay.
in activities because it keeps me connected with other people.
Oh, I
And
love
if I may just build on that rainbow symbol, but there's no dividing line between the colors. So we blend into each other.
Right.
What's many colors, one rainbow.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So in the chat, put your truth, what you do, just so we can see what people do to kind of organize and be inspired by other people. I try to do 10,000 steps 5 times a week. So I'm going to put that in, but put your truth in. What are you doing to remain at your best? Just so we can hear and
Okay.
see. And I'll just write some of them, speak some of them out, but just type it in. And it's inspiring to see, right? You could be walking and you could be doing volunteer service. Okay, so make sure you hit return so we can see. Walking the dog 3 to 4 miles every morning. Wow, 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 with your husband too. Socially active, meditating an hour each day. Wow, Travis, Barbara, this is quite an exceptional group. Socializing, Tai Chi every morning, starting a village for the Village to Village movement, staying involved in social issues. Ooh, Galen, that's fun. Performing magic, which is a childhood dream. We just saw David Copperfield in Las Vegas, which was fun. Spend a fair amount of time with young cousins, and I work at making pottery multiple times a week. So whether it's volunteering sense, right? Your truth of what it is that keeps you engaged and active. So thank you for sharing that and playing along, everybody. All right, so let us move along. Oh, I know people are still posting, but that's okay. Number 2 is do, which we touched on a little bit already, but pursue volunteered and paid work. So the research shows that people who stop working and retire often suffer from depression, heart attacks, malaise, because they simply don't have a purpose in their lives. So I always ask the question, and this particular principle is, what concerns you? We'll just share that. And about it. So I'm going to stop share again And I'm going to ask someone who wants to share. There's a lot of volunteers. We have Francis, who talked about volunteering. We have a few other members who talk about volunteering. So Francis, do you want to come off mute and share with us? Brenda Jones, good to see you, Brenda, talks about being socially active. So does Francis want to come off mute and
Sure.
Go ahead, Francis.
Sure. I'm fairly active in the Valley Neighbors Group, which I helped found 3 years ago. And we just got off the ground last year after COVID subsided. And it takes up quite a bit of time, but is totally rewarding. Helping
I love it.
others. Mhm.
I love it. I love it. And Judith says facilitate a group for folks with psychiatric disabilities. Judith, do you want to get? Oops. Let's see if Judith comes on.
No, thank you.
Okay, good. So just, it was documented and we're so happy you shared. So the idea really is that there are an abundance of causes that would be so great dedication of a population of people that want to help and contribute. So there is no shortage of need. When I've done this talk before, we have members who share with us that they're not their local politicians to change the structure of the government. It could be something like that, or it could be an opportunity to read to a child in a local library, something much smaller than that, right? So there is no limitation. The only limitation, frankly, is the time that you want to invest in it, given all else that I think a lot of remaining with purpose is vitally important. Okay. Sorry, this is my computer. I'm not sure why this is open. Just give me 1 second here. I'm going to try to shut this down. Okay, the next one is Ed. Learn to keep a sharp mind. So pursuing lifelong learning activities has benefits that go beyond boosting your brain power. The researchers at leading universities discovered this connection between lifelong learning and health, and they discovered that the more educated a person, the lower their rates of anxiety and depression and acute and chronic disease. So it's so vitally important to keep learning and growing. I was just going to give one example. We're doing a program this week on CBD and THC. So the idea of weeding out, no pun intended, fact from fiction by a leading physician who is someone who's been doing this form of medicine for over a decade. And so again, whether you're interested in this practice or not is irrelevant. It's the idea of learning and continuing to grow that's so vital and important. So I always ask people, like, what are they reading or what are they writing? So I was just going to put here, we had an author, the name is Letty Pugabrim, and her book was phenomenal. So put what you're reading, whether fiction or nonfiction. Usually I ask about nonfiction books. Shonda happens to be a memoir, but I'd love to see when you think about nonfiction books that you're reading, what are they? If you're writing one, I'd love to hear what that is. I'm writing a book on vitality, but if anybody wants to put it in the chat, it's much easier to do this live, but we use the chat as a function. But if anybody's reading any good nonfiction books, would love to know what they are, the topics that interest you. So I've just read quite a few myself on everything from consulting to whole body reset to the memoirs of 2 major authors, the science of cooking. Excellent, excellent. Anybody else want to share? The Perfectionist by Simon Winchester. Excellent, excellent. Anybody else? Chesapeake Requiem. Excellent, Brenda. Okay, good. So the idea, obviously, is reading books and participating in Zooms or going to various different live lectures, attending a university for a course, signing up for a semester-long course, even teaching. I think about my mom. She retired a few years ago, and she's a natural-born educator. She's an art historian. She teaches our art history program, and it'll happen again in October. And she voraciously spends 2-3 months researching and writing and preparing her lessons. And she's having the time of her life, because when she studied art history, she had to rely on books in the libraries, and now she's getting a huge amount of information that she's compiling and synthesizing to lead these and design these lessons, which our members really have loved. So again, she's constantly reading, learning, and she thanks, us for keeping her mind sharp, because she has to think about that. I'm just looking here in the chat again. We learned from Gallon is written books on IT, innovation and transitioning to retirement, reading magic books, fantastic. So there's a lot of models for this in the community, and I think people really understand it. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one.
Thank you.
Oh, who's that? Oh, okay, fantastic. The next one is go. Travel to discover new places. So the benefits of travel for older people include improvements to your mental, physical, and emotional health. And the studies have found, and I know we have several men here, that the impact is even greater for men. So this is an interesting study. One study found that women who vacationed every 6 years or less had a higher risk of developing a heart attack or coronary death compared to women who vacationed at least twice a year. So of course, this was more difficult to do during COVID, but we see in our community, a lot of our members are starting to travel again. And so I always like to know, where are people going to go next? So put that in the chat. Like for us, my husband is Brazilian, and we have not seen his family since the fall of 2019. So I would love to know if anybody wants to travel and where you're going. So how travel works with disabilities is interesting. So we have a program on Vitality Society. We do it every December. It's called a Staycation Exploration, and it's armchair travel. So for those who aren't comfortable traveling or not capable of traveling for whatever the reason, we do virtual travel, and there are many places that do that. So I'd be happy to share with you what we do. It's in December, but the idea is that you can participate and travel virtually and go to these places. So we hear from Jean with Sicily and John going to the Azores. So we have a bunch of our members who just came back from Alaska, another one to the European adventure. So there's no shortage of places to go and cultures to communicate with and connect with. And it's such a vital part of leading a healthy life. The next one's a lot of fun by design. So laughter, is the strongest and best medicine. Nothing works faster or more dependably to bring your mind and body back into balance than a good laugh. It draws us together, it strengthens your immune system, it boosts your mood, it diminishes pain, and it protects the effects of stress. So this is where I build my repertoire of other people's favorite movies and TV shows, and I ask if anybody has a joke. So first of all, I've been watching Grace and Frankie. Is any thumbs up? Oh, Annie has to come off of mute. I can't hear. I started, just to be clear, I started watching Grace and Frankie because when I've asked this question, everybody was answering that with that response.
And, that adds into it.
I love it. And I have been a fan of Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin since 9 to 5. So I just love it that they're still so beautiful. If anybody name a favorite movie that makes people laugh. Anybody want to share, put it in the chat, a favorite movie that makes them laugh. Has anybody seen Little Miss Sunshine? Oh my God. I don't know why when he's driving they're like zooming around. I think that's so funny. So if there's movies that people like to watch or TV shows that you like to see, put them in the chat. And I have to ask if I have a volunteer to tell a clean joke. We have one member that's our in-house comedian. She tells the best jokes. Anybody want to share a clean joke that they're comfortable with? Anybody? Galen, is that you with your magic, or is it purely magic, not jokes?
I have a Halloween show coming up, so I have a Halloween joke.
Okay, perfect. Okay, this is the only thing I have to say. We have to make sure that whatever you say, if it
Yes.
offends anybody, it's not
Well,
representative.
let's see. Why didn't the skeleton cross the road?
Anybody know? Dick or Francis or Stanley? No. No. That's cute. That's cute. I like that.
Like dad
So,
jokes.
the bottom line is, whether it's a Galen joke or anybody else's joke, find the time to have fun. Find the time. It's great all around. All right, the next one is very important, and I know resonates with a lot of people here, given your involvement with the Village movement, but studies have revealed that by expanding your social networks, so this principle of meeting new people is so valuable, but hard and becomes increasingly more difficult as partners may pass, friends may move, family members may be busy. So this idea of finding different ways to meet new people actually is not so difficult. So I need 2 volunteers before we go on to the next. Anybody? Let's see. Brenda, do you want to take this one? And who else is going to be my volunteer? I need one more volunteer. Otherwise I have to, let's see, who else can I ask? I want to pick someone who's, Barbara Talbert, can I put you on the spot? It's not a hard exercise. Okay, so I'm going to add the spotlight here. Both of you can come off of mute, Barbara. All right, so we're going to do an experience to meet people, but it doesn't have to be so hard. And here's why. We have 1 minute. I'm going to tell you when to start. You have 1 minute for both of you to have a conversation to find one thing in common. Could be or directives beyond that. Find one thing in common in 1 minute when the clock gets to 2:35. So think about where that conversation will start, and I'll tell you when to go. The countdown. You're going to have 1 minute to come up with one connection. Let's go.
Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Barbara. I'm busy community. So, and we have an active lifestyle group. So we regularly get together for socials and dinners.
And,
Do you
and
have
Barbara,
an
what
active
about you? What are
community?
your hobbies?
What are volunteering at the local animal shelter, do a lot of walking, volunteer with our, I'm on the board with our local village.
It is fantastic. And what about your families? Where are you from? Brenda.
I'm from Ohio originally, and moving all the way from Oregon to Virginia was a big deal. To be here, 2 granddaughters, but I'm delighted to have gotten to know them from the first days they were born.
Oh, I love
So-
that.
So I live in Oregon, in Southern
Ah.
Oregon. was born in Hawaii. And but the last 20 years have been in Oregon.
I love it. So you both had roots and spent time and lived in Oregon. I love that. So this is so easy, right? So it took less than a minute for Brenda and Barbara, who I don't think you know each other before, share in common. And the idea is like, when you find that, then a conversation occurs, right? So we have a solo agers group on Vitality Society, and I'll never forget that. Thank you both for participating. We have a solo agers group on Vitality. 2 women, Barbara, I'll take you up, hold on one second. There were 2 women that were in Canada, and they both got to know our community. I actually still don't know exactly how they found us. That's irrelevant. And the next thing you know, it turns out never knew each other. And the next thing you know, turns out they both love to walk and they both love to garden, and they became the fastest and best of friends. And now they never come to the solo agers group because they're so busy gardening and walking away in another country and never knew each other before they came on our platform. So it really is remarkable when you think about how easy it could be, but sometimes even the people in your neighborhood, you never really get to know, meet new people. The next one is own. So studies show personality traits such as optimism and pessimism can affect your health and well-being. Positive thinking that comes with optimism is a key part associated with many health benefits, including your brain function. So this is where I reflect a little bit about my family. So my maternal grandmother, Mary, I was very close to, and I'd call her all the time, and I'd always ask her how she felt. And she'd say, it entirely, whatever was going on in her life, she wanted to know what was going on in my life. She ended up on life support at 92 and miraculously came off of it after 5 weeks and lived another 6 years. And after that, I said to her, Grandma, you scared? And she said to me, and this is her little voice, and she wouldn't be offended if I did this because I used to imitate her. She'd say, Marilla, I don't know what everybody was so worried about. I was fine. Now that's Grandma Mary. Grandma Selma, my paternal grandmother, every time I called her, I don't know if I'll talk to you again. I love you. We may never speak again. I mean, it really was very depressing. Now, granted, she had Crohn's and arthritis, so she wasn't feeling as well as she could have or wanted to, but like it was so difficult on our family and herself. And it's just this idea of that I have 2 options, right? I'm predisposed perhaps to both. So I have to make my mind up, no pun intended, like where and how am I going to be? Am I going to be less than that? And what I constantly hear in these programs is the idea of achieving happiness via mindfulness is so key, and a lot of you meditate, but also is this idea of gratitude. When I think of mindfulness, I think of gratitude. I think about what are we grateful for? What would you look forward to? This is what propels us forward, right? This idea of peace of mind and being grateful and grounded in gratitude. So I love to see, like, when did your, if you would, when did your happiness peak and why? If you can put the number in and just put it, I'm just going to put here 25 because I was in business school. I loved business school. I had so much fun. So I put 25 in business school. So just put a number and one word reads I. And maybe it's peaking now, right? So maybe it's the number today or the general number in the last few years and why. So if you want to just put that in the chat. One more interactive question. Would love to see if anybody wants to share. 2011, because my first grandchild, Kate, was born. Beautiful. Congratulations, Brenda. Galen said, Barbara said now because she has purpose and a passion and no boss. I love that. Jean said when she met her husband. Will, 70, when retired and continues to get happier. So I love hearing and seeing this. So let's see what the data says. Let's see what the data says. If anybody wants to you could still post it. That's not a problem. So the data says that increased happiness happens on few dimensions. So a financial situation, a physical appearance. When I was in business school, is pretty close to this first life overall happiness point, the ages people are the happiest. And other than that is 69, which is exciting. That's another point in time, one point in time when people are the, excuse me, this is what you're seeing with what people are writing, that I'm happy now and I'm increasingly becoming even happier, which is this idea of financial situation, your physical appearance. People are coming to peace and are satisfied and becomes go along. I just want to point out, I'm not enthusiastically going into my 50s because this is not really where I want to be. But I love being with the members of Vitality Society because they truly are so uplifting and delightful. And the data suggests that it's going to continue for them that way. So we look at the happiness curve over decades of one's life, and Brookings Institute did this post-COVID or during COVID, wherever we stand at the moment. But the idea is that it's the shape of a smile. And what few pieces of information that I really think about, the happiness takes you 70 years to get to that point again at pretty much around 85. That's pretty daunting, right? So this idea of you become less satisfied and happy. And then, as we said and heard from a lot of the members here, this is over many people, over many decades, so it may not resonate entirely with you. I always wonder, like, with the COVID curve, is it making people even happier and grateful that we endured and we're doing well? Or is it, perhaps a little bit less so because it was pretty scary? This here is really important. And I want everybody to think about this. Your genetics depend on 50% of your happiness. So 50% of your happiness depends on your genetics. That we all know that. But 50% of your happiness is what you can control. And 40% of that is your internal state of mind. That's that own piece that we're talking about, right? This idea of whether it's meddling, this idea of peaceful state of mind is so powerful and helpful to achieving happiness. The other piece of this is this 10% is your circumstances. So there's a lot of research that if you are married, better educated people, having a nest egg, and this let's just call health. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not entirely sure what that picture is. I have my speculation. It's easier to say in person what I think it is. But the idea is that is controllable, and 40% of that, this purple part, is your state of mind. Really, really powerful data. So for those of you who are actively thinking about how to achieve more happiness, and the last one I wanted to leave you with is OI. And this idea is reducing your worries and concerns. So identify what you can and can't control and manage your worries and concerns, because it could be detrimental to Vitality Society. We understand every stage of life comes with a lot of challenges, and obviously every stage comes with different ones. The things I'm thinking about right now for my parents are very different than what I'm thinking about for my 12-year-old daughter. But the idea is, what is the top worry on your mind when you woke up, and what can you do about it? So I ask for volunteers right now. If it's too personal, don't volunteer. But if it's something you might be willing to school. One woman said, I woke up with the worst headache because I haven't been sleeping as well in the hotel as I usually do at home. So she said, I didn't have any Tylenol or aspirin, but I went down to the hotel and the store was opening and she was able to get something. What was not a happy start to her day, getting what she needed. She felt the relief she needed. And then she said the next night she was going to try to go to bed a little bit earlier, but during a reunion, that's actually a little difficult to do. So think about, we don't need a volunteer on the worries and concerns that you might have to address them in the most productive and positive ways. Now, there are challenges that our members that I've learned have faced. Some of them have lost spouses. Some of them are not really deep cleaning in their homes, but trying to get rid of family members' items that they've inherited. So some of these tasks are very daunting. I have my own list of daunting tasks. We all have them. But the question really is like, how do you think of a period of time, and how do you work towards better and improved outcomes to manage those worries and concerns? So I'm going to go back to the presentation and just go to the last slide, and then we will wrap it up. And we can go to is, I think about what is your vitality score, right? Whether you were a 7, we had quite a few 7s, we had lots of 9s. It really doesn't matter. Whatever your score is, people show up here. And so what is your vitality opportunity? I always put my email address because I love to learn and hear from those who participate. So if you want to email me or text me, my information's there. I love learning and meeting. It provides a lot of pleasure for me. So if you has here's my number and my email address. The other piece of this is, many of you know, we have a lot of Vitality Society members that are already Village members. It's very supplemental and complimentary. We have over 20 live classes a week. So I'll show you what those are. But we extend a $5 a month savings to Village members for being part of a Village of your own. So that's just $24.99. So you have the link and you can copy and paste it. But I will show you here what it is that we offer. And then if anybody is interested in sharing that, any questions, you could put it in the chat so I can show you what I wanted to show you, and we'll go from here. Okay. I have a lot of screens up. All right. Okay, so here's the link. What's coming up? Okay, so this is the virtual Village members. We offer 2 weeks free when you sign up with your credit card. And again, it's $24.99 a month, which equates to $299 a year. So you can scroll down and you can see. So here's the calendar, and our classes are 7 days a week. The class types that we have are cardio, enrichment, mindfulness, rehab, and strengthening. There are various different intensities. So us, and then our most intense classes are like our bar, hula hooping, or Pilates. And then we have a lot of programming related to strengthening and stability, whether it be our fall prevention program or our physical therapy class. Is actually taught by a Village member, Marty Lamb. She's out of North Carolina. She reached out to me. She heard about us through the Villages. She said she's a coach. I said, I'd love to get to know you. And now we have built her a nationwide following. Our members adore. I had to say, I just wrote a letter of reference for her, and now she's teaching in addition to for us somewhere locally. So I was so happy that she's doing She Loves, and we could help her find new opportunities based on the success she's had with us. I was story. And our Village members are meeting members of different villages and other members nationwide. One of our most popular classes is tomorrow. So is barefoot therapy. And we also do a word games. So if you're interested in word games, we do Wordle, Quirtle, Spelling Bee, and then we go into our barefoot therapy class. We also have strengthening series on Saturday and a stretching on Sunday. Our special events on Sunday nights are realer, and the art programs will start in October. This weekend's the holiday. So I'll put that in the chat so everybody has the link. And I will stop here. But when you get to this page and you're not charged today, you'll get the 2 weeks free. And you'll be reminded before you're charged. During the free trial, you'll be reminded, but your credit card won't be charged till after the 2 weeks. So I will stop here and see if anybody has any questions. I'll put that in the chat. And I know Barbara and Travis will also have that available. But we've been really, truly blessed to have so many village members, and they are thriving, and we're so happy to be part of their lives. And about 8 minutes to go. If anybody wants to come off mute and ask a question or share a reflection, we'd love to have that. Oh, so one question, is the $25 fee open to everyone, not just village members? I have a friend who's not in a village. Question. We do make exceptions, you know, if it's a friend of a village member, that's okay. It's more about getting people to participate than it is, you know, the $5 a month. We just would like to extend the benefit of being an active village member. So if you do have friends, please invite them, share this link with them. We'll be happy to have them and honor them in. The other piece of this is that comes up sometimes, it's for a household. So your partner or your whomever you're sharing residence with, a sibling or a tenant. We have several members that have rental tenants in parts of their home that come in. We also have members that are in RVs and travel, finding programming that they enjoyed while they were traveling, which is pretty much all of the time. So we get to travel vicariously all over different parks, and we get to see where our members are, which is really nice. All right, does anybody have any questions?
I was wondering if any of those sessions in your classes are recorded. So if you're not able to attend at that particular moment, can you see it at another time?
Great question. Yes, so we have a very broad line. Our members have, as you know, like loved showing up live. We go on 5 minutes early, 5 minutes late, generally to get to know others. But you're 100% right. People's schedules are often very demanding. So yes, we have. Yep. And I can show you how easy that is to do. If anybody has any other questions, I can answer those while I'm setting it up. But the way you get to the recorded library is super easy. You just type in, oops, I'm typing, let me spell it correctly, recordings. So if you go to the Vitality Society recordings, and then it pops up all the classes, and then you could just scroll down. She does an all body strengthening, and you click here and you can watch her video. And there's no limit to the number of classes you can participate live and record it. So it's anywhere, anytime, as much as you want. And I'm proud to say, which is 5 hours of classes a week. So they are very committed. But then we have people who come once a week, right? So it really depends. But we'd love to have you. So make sure you copy that to answer that. So Gavin, where's your next magic show?
At a local senior center.
Fantastic.
So
What's your specialty?
I do kid shows and corporate events.
Fantastic.
But I found that seniors are a really appreciative audience. They're into it. I think they appreciate have an inside track there that I'm having fun with.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I started working with older people going to the senior centers in New Jersey with my grandfather. We called it the cook and the comedian. I cooked and he warmed up the crowd with jokes. And I don't know how much fun. So that's great that you're doing that. And we just went to David Copperfield in Las Vegas. That was quite something.
I hear he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He
Not as good as others, but
he really made a car appear and he made people disappear. And no matter how old he gets, that's never going to get old to me because, you know, it's quite remarkable. It's quite remarkable. Yes, amazing.
Just excellent on stage.
Yeah.
Production.
Well, good for
Magic
you.
is almost
Congratulations.
secondary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he also has a lot of up and coming magicians to compete with. Right. So, well, great. So yes.
I should mention that I won this is Madison, Wisconsin, local best original magic trick contest at age 69. Oh, well, I can describe it. It's basically cards exchanging places. Very visual, totally amazing. High marks wherever I go.
Can you do it now?
I can't do that now without kind of having a setup for you.
Okay. Okay. So you'll have to come back
next time.
Well, you have my information on Vitality Society. So I'll put my information in the chat here and everybody. Okay, good.
I can put it.
Well, we are a great audience. We love to see the amazing things. So
okay.
Fantastic. So I just want to say this was delightful. I loved meeting everybody. I put my email in the chat if anybody has a trick up their sleeve, no pun intended, or wants to get in touch. The link is there. It's bit.ly/VSVillage member22. We'd love for you to join us. The members that I've gotten to meet are phenomenal and delightful, and I'd love for you to meet them as well. And we really do get to know each other and like each other, so that's nice. Oh, thank you, Galen. Amazing, Mr. Magic. Perfect.
Yeah. Have fun.
Day, and please be in touch. We would love to have you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Brenda. You have the information. See you again. Travis and Barbara, thank you again.
Sure thing.